Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Weather History. Today we're going to be going over April 27th of 2011, 7 years ago on this very day, at least at the time of this video being released and recorded. Before this video does start, this is proudly sponsored by Floyd Glass and Window. Check them out in the link below. Let's begin with what was so important about this day. We first of all had over 360 confirmed tornadoes here. So you can see that here. That's a lot of tornadoes. That's more tornadoes than we've had on any other single day in history. And that accounts for over a third of the tornadoes that we get on an average spring occurring in one day. Did over $11 billion in damages and killed over 300 people. Once again, very high numbers for a tornado outbreak. The only outbreak that does compare to this is one from 1974, the only other tornado outbreak deemed as a super outbreak. So getting into the events leading up to this is on April 21st. This is the outlook for the 25th, because this was a part of a 4-day severe weather outbreak. We're only going to be going over 3 today, because the 28th, after the 27th, was not all that serious. But the 25th was when they started to see things form up, and they said that we'd get severe thunderstorms along this particular area. And they would have key elements here basically saying that, yeah, we were going to be getting severe weather there, and that a more major severe weather event may be coming up in the future. So getting up to this is April 22nd. So now you can see stuff for both April 25th, and now they're smelling that something could happen on the 26th as well, as rather clearly indicated here. And you can see that outlook now saying this could be a more widespread serious outbreak with some more dangerous severe weather as a possibility. You can see that red text being the most important text. You can read that, and then the white text is stuff that you can read if you want to. But the most important stuff is highlighted in red here for you. From my point on the green screen, though, I cannot really read this too well. So please, if it is important to you, you can read this. But I'll just generally be going over summaries of what exactly these outlooks meant. So then getting into April 23rd, 2011's outlook for 25th. This is 3 days before the 25th. They have a slight risk. That's a 15% chance going all the way here from Texas all the way through Indiana. So that you can also see. And then you can also see a 30% area here. Now you might be confused as to why there isn't another risk category for that, and the reason why is because they weren't invented yet. These days it's known as the enhanced risk, and the 5% you can see here is known as the marginal risk, but at that point that was not really given. And you can see basically they're saying conditions are favorable. You have high atmospheric energy, and it looks like hail, high winds, those kinds of things could be a serious threat with this particular storm. Getting into April 24th's outlook for April 25th, here you go. This is 2 days from now, from the event itself. Well, actually a day before, and you can see that slight risk still going from Indiana all the way down to Texas. The moderate risk has shifted northward now with southern Missouri in it, Arkansas in it, a little bit of Oklahoma, and you can see here that 45% probability of severe weather. That's moderate. And you can also see this hatched area, this black hatched area. What this means is that this is where you can get what's called significant severe weather. So that would be EF2 plus tornadoes. That would be 2-inch hail. That would be 75-mile-an-hour winds, hurricane force. Getting into generally what they're saying. In general, they're saying that this could be a potentially significant severe weather event. So this would be a part of an outbreak. They were starting to sense what was happening. And this was the outlook for April 25th. You can see a moderate risk here. Very high risk for tornadoes, especially with that 15% category. And then you can see the 30% categories accordingly there. So violent tornadoes possible. And also it looks like some rather large hail as well. So getting into the outlook itself, it's basically saying that, yeah, there's a consensus. This is not going to be a good day, severe weather-wise. Then getting into the storm reports, this is verification. This is basically saying Storm Prediction Centers made their outlook. This is what actually happened. Blue representing hail, green representing winds, and red representing tornadoes. So you can see here throughout that moderate risk, slight moderate risk area, we definitely did get that. Did get an unexpected little fire up here, and then, yeah, it looks like in general they were mostly correct in their assumptions for what exactly was going to happen. Getting into April 26th, this is an outlook you've already seen before. This, though, we're going to be focusing on day 4 here, where we are going to have another line develop behind this. Day 5, I meant, sorry. Day 5, you're going to have a line developing. This is from day 4, and that would be a rather serious situation. This is going to be when we get our first wave of big tornadoes, when that does occur, and you're going to see here that this is going to be a part of a potentially significant severe weather event, blah, 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 and then you can see here it is April 23rd. This is when we started to see things were going to get really bad for the 27th. So you can see day 4. That's April 26th. April 27th, this is the entire area they were seeing getting impacted there. This is going to be the worst day, you guys know that. And here we go, once again, showing significant severe weather event possibilities. Slight risk here again. This is looking very similar to the 25th's outlook. You can see this is on the 24th. Slight risk extending all the way from Texas, though, all the way up through New York, and you can see a 30% probability. Again, that would be an enhanced risk, and that hatched area showing significant severe weather possibilities. And you can see here we have lots of red text here. This is showing the different threats, why they're going to be there, and where they're going to be. So here we are. This is 2 days. This is the day 2 outlook for April 26th on the 25th. And you can see now we do have a moderate risk. This is a rather large area, and you can also see that 45% chance with a rather large hatched area there. So significant tornadic activity is possible. We get into the outlook stats here. Basically down here, this is going to be where your big chunk of summary is, but you'll also see a couple other threats up there. Getting into day 1, this is when we had a high risk. High risk is 60% chance of severe weather normally. You can see we only have 45 here. So what happened? Well, this is what happened. The tornado threat was pretty large, and that is what did cause this issue. Getting into the stats, once again, the red text being what you're going to want to look at, and then white text being other stuff you can look at. But basically, they're saying very significant severe weather event underway, particularly dangerous situation is in progress. That's basically what they're going to be saying. And then here's the verification. As you can see, tons and tons of severe weather down here. And definitely up here, we did have a little bit as well, where that slight risk did extend. So you can see high winds. It's basically in chunks. High winds here, large hail here, tornadoes down here. And if you would like, in another video, I could explain why exactly storms are structured in such a way in a Weather Explained video. Speaking of Weather Explained, I will be talking about how hurricanes form in a later video, so you can check the card up above when that does come out right here. Okay, getting into April 27th itself. This is the worst single day in weather history right here. You can notice, there you go. Worst single day in weather history. So we start 23rd. You've already seen this outlook. Doesn't take very long to notice. Here you go. Day 4. Basically, they're saying we're going to have a very dangerous situation, a potential tornado outbreak here. That is what they were talking about. And this is just very bad looking from the looks of things, at least from my view. Going into the threat, this is 2 days until April 27th, the day 3 outlook. For the first time, you see a moderate risk on the day 3. Here it is. This is the moderate risk, and what you'll actually notice is a huge shift here later, but you'll see that 45% chance of severe weather, that hatched area, potentially significant severe weather event is going to take place. You can see that right here, and it does look as if we are going to be very concerned about general areas here in this particular event. Getting into one day, you can see moderate risk is a little bit more extensive, 30%, really going up here. But yeah, basically a very dangerous situation here. This is 1 day until April 27th once again. Generally saying a tornado outbreak is underway. Get ready, get prepared, because things are going to get gnarly. And then finally, this is the second outlook before April 27th, and you can see how expansive this 45% area is with the hatched area there. I mean, seriously, imagine looking in your severe weather outlook and seeing that there was a moderate risk with EF2 plus tornadoes possible all the way down in Mississippi and Alabama, all the way up through Ohio and Pennsylvania and West Virginia. That would be pretty crazy to see, and the even crazier part is that it did happen in the first place. And you can see here, text definitely indicating that a significant severe weather event is going to be occurring. Something potentially historic could come out. of this event. And then this is the day of the event. A high risk immediately issued. So here you go. You get the high risk, 45% and 45% chances of high winds and large hail, with wind being a little higher. And you can see there that 30% chance of tornadic activity definitely being the key. And here you can go. You can see significant severe weather event underway. Supercells looking like they're going to form with this. Heating in the atmosphere definitely being a part of it. There were a lot of conditions that came together to form an event like this. Once again, I can make a separate video on that if you guys would like. If you would like that, you can just comment down below. Getting on to the next outlook. This would be at 7:55 a.m. We're also going to be going over tornado and severe thunderstorm watches as those did come out. But you can see here high risk of severe weather was issued by the Storm Prediction Center. Still that 30% chance of tornadoes. Now, I was honestly asking myself when I was looking through the Outlook archives, did they ever issue a 45%? I've never seen a 60% chance of tornadoes in my entire life, but let me tell you, this 30% chance of tornadoes would not be the highest chance that you would see throughout this day. And you can see here the particularly dangerous situation that was occurring, that was underway, a tornado outbreak. Definitely a likely occurrence, and you can clearly see we're very concerned about that at this point. So here we go. We start with our first watch. Here you go. Tornadoes, 30% chance, 20% chance of EF2 plus tornadoes. And you can see here the chances there. So here's the color table. I'm just going to go over that real quick. Red is moderate, orange is low, yellow is very low, and pink is high. So here we go. Basically, they're saying tornadoes are a threat. You can see the main threats of this watch right here, and you can see the areas that the watch covered, and you can see this is probably not going to be much of a tornado producer. Definitely think it would be more likely to produce strong winds, and you can tell because it's a line. When you have independent little cells, that's when you can get a little bit more worried about potentially tornadic thunderstorms, but at least at this point, this line is not looking to be anything too dangerous. Next watch does get issued. This guy you got to be concerned about. Not the line itself, but what's going to come in front of that line. That's going to be what you're concerned about. And you can see probability slightly higher, especially in the hail side of things. And the tornado probabilities are almost exactly the same. You can see tornadoes, large hail, wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour, definitely a possibility. And you can see here that the structure of this is looking very good for potential tornadic activity. So here we go. We get into our next watch. The watch issued slightly north of the previous, with once again tornadoes, large hail, high winds, all being a potential threat. And now you can see this is developed, this little line. And you can also see independent cells developing behind there. Now what's going to happen is these cells are going to stretch down. You're going to start getting those dangerous tornadoes. So here pretty soon you're going to be getting all pinks throughout here on one of these watches, at least I think, if I remember correctly. And speaking of that, there you go. You can see all pinks on here. 95%, 90%, 95%, 90%, 95%, 90%, all of those. This is a particularly dangerous situation according to the Storm Prediction Center, with very large and violent tornadoes likely with this. And you can also see that line has extended now. It has began to extend here. And this is looking like a very problematic issue. More particularly dangerous situation watches will come out throughout this day, especially in places like Alabama, as time does go on. And you can see why definitely later on, because the structure of this is just so perfect for severe storms of the magnitude that we did get. Next outlook would come out. It would be 11:29, and this did give us that 45% chance of tornadoes. That is a crazy high percentage. Especially for the Storm Prediction Center. And I know you're like, that's not even 50%, so why does that make it seem like it's likely to get a tornado? Well, that's because that means 45% of all storms that pass through here are going to drop a tornado. And since you know they're little independent cells, if you get 10 of them, 4 of them are going to drop a tornado. So that's a very small area for tornadoes to drop in. So that's why we're seeing that high risk there. And you can see in the red text, basically a historic weather event is going down. If you'd like more details, that's why I have them up on the screen now. But yeah, definitely they're basically just saying a historic severe weather event is taking place. Tornado outbreak is likely to occur. Next watch would take place, severe thunderstorm watch. Tornadoes were very unlikely, although high winds and large hail much more likely. This did happen right around here. This was a subline. This actually wouldn't develop into too much, especially compared to down here. You can even see hook echoes on some radar, that being a clear signature of a tornado that is on the ground that could be very dangerous. And speaking of danger, you can see a new particularly dangerous situation watch is issued in Alabama. You get 95% across the board for tornadoes, 90% and 95% on the rest of them. You can see particularly dangerous situation, very violent tornadoes. Alabama would definitely get the worst of this, and actually at the end of the video, I'm going to be putting up a little montage of tornadoes. Well, a link will be in the description to a good montage of them. And you'll definitely be able to see what terror some people did have to go through, especially with these tornadoes, because they were very violent, very dangerous, and some of them were over 2 miles wide. It was just a pretty crazy scenario, something I definitely would not want to be a part of. And here we go, right after that, a new outlook would be issued. Once again, that 45% chance of severe weather. Large thing being the moderate risk has been extended way up north, and you can see that's in high winds. Large hail actually being a very low threat at this point, with tornadic activity also expanding greatly on the potential of where it could be. Definitely seeing here, very dangerous situation. The outlook text is actually exactly the same as the previous, so there's not much to talk about there. New tornado watch in effect. You can see probabilities there, those threats of hail, those tornadic threats, things in general like that. You can even see the storms aren't actually overly strong, but that tornado watch is still going to be in effect because those could get stronger later on, although I would not think they would actually get too strong down the long run. New tornado watch would go into effect. This would not be a particularly dangerous situation watch, but you can see 70% chance of severe winds and tornadic activity. I would personally deem it to be a very dangerous situation, but I wouldn't give it the Storm Prediction Center's marker of a particularly dangerous situation, at least at this point. Here we go. This is the final particularly dangerous situation tornado watch that would be in effect. You can see all the pink down there, and you can see that we do have, that particularly dangerous situation. Violent tornadoes, large tornadoes. Basically, you're in a pickle. You're in a very troubling situation if you are put under a particularly dangerous situation watch. Getting into, the next watch. Very low chances of hail. Tornadoes and strong winds definitely being of a higher probability, with that tornadic activity definitely also being possible. And then getting into the final watch. This would be the final particularly dangerous situation watch, with tornadoes being at a high threat. You can see that PDS right there, and this could be the potential for violent tornadoes, but all other modes of severe weather were a little bit more confined. This is at 6:50 p.m., so as you know, wasn't that late in the day. Also would like to address something I forgot to address just a little bit earlier, and that is that, you probably saw times going before other times, and it wasn't exactly going in chronological order. Well, it actually was. It's just that time zones changed, so when it does go 1 hour before, that's Central Time, and when it goes back to normal, you're back into Eastern Time. Getting into the 7:25 p.m. tornado watch, this guy would only have a 40% chance of tornadoes, relatively low chance of anything particularly dangerous, but you can see there they still did have that watch effective. And then finally, another watch would go into effect. This says 6:40. It's actually 7:40 in the Eastern Zone. You can see a new tornado watch because a few new supercells did happen to develop there. 40% chance of tornadoes. They'd probably head into here before they got more dangerous. Here you'd go. This would be one of the final outlooks. Here it is. This is a dangerous situation. Basically, they're saying historic severe weather event underway, and that this was a historic day in weather history. Here we go. We go to 8:15. You can see severe storm watch in effect. 5% chance of tornadoes that are EF2 or above. So as you know, these are not anything that could be too dangerous, but these storms are stronger. These are actually, I think, the storms that were previously down farther south that I didn't think would develop into much, and I don't think they did through that tornado watch. And then here we go, one more watch. It's 9:40. There you go, tornado watch. This is when with these last general supercells still do have the potential to produce something dangerous, but I don't think they'd produce something overly dangerous, if you know what I'm saying. And then here we go. This is the final reports, tornado reports being overabundant here within this line of storms. Basically, this was just a very bad, very dangerous, and very unfortunate situation. And in summary, this was one of the worst tornado outbreaks that I think I will ever live to see. I hope I never get to live to see a tornado outbreak as bad as this again, because this was obviously very devastating. Getting into more stuff on the day of the event. Here you go. These are watches and warnings. This is the 26th, 27th, 28th, in that general area. So, tornado watches and warnings, all that stuff, you can see it here, and you can see the most warnings were on the 27th, and you can see actually a very long track warning here, going all the way from Arkansas all the way up towards Virginia. That was on the same general supercell. So you can see that was a very dangerous storm. Another thing, these are the tornado ratings. EF5s, especially down here, violent tornadoes, those were an issue. You can see lots of EF3s, EF4s, EF5s. It's not a good situation. You typically get one EF5 every year. And this time we got more than one in a single day. Alright, well that's it. Check me out on social media at Microcasting on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. This is Microcasting St. Louis, signing out.